Yo, hey, we're Guns N' Roses and you're watching MTV in Japan. Don't change that channel.
Where to begin on this one? It's fascinating to think how ubiquitous this song is, being in movies, shows, video games, commercials.
Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games.
Apparently also the unofficial anthem for the Cincinnati Bengals. Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses is a song that is a defining example of rock and roll, to the point that it's been talked to death about how iconic and thrilling it is listening to it every time it's played. It's that good. But what if I told you that this song took over a year to even become a hit? As big as the song and its album Appetite for Destruction are for hard rock, at the time, it took a while for it to gain traction. There are different reasons why this would be the case, but one reason in particular has to do with the music video.
Welcome to the jungle, we got fun and games.
Initially, MTV did not play it on their primetime hours, and so it took a while for it to actually garner any traction.
We're gonna watch you bleed.
Part of the story is going to get complicated, as I'm not entirely sure which accounts are true and which are exaggerated. But trust me, as this is a history lesson worth listening to. Bear with me on this. Because even though we'll be talking about one of the most celebrated rock songs of all time, there are some things about the music video's history that we will need to look through with a fine-tooth comb. So let me just give you a warm welcome, as it is once again music video time, and we are talking about Guns N' Roses and the rather complicated history behind the music video to Welcome to the Jungle.
You know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby.
Schedule. Yeah. Welcome to the Jungle is the first release off of this new album. We're going to take a look at this clip. What kind of jungle are we talking about here, fella?
To truly talk about the video's inception, we first have to talk about the album itself. Appetite for Destruction was released on July 21st, 1987. Retrospective analysis of this album would label it as one of the greatest rock albums ever made, from various fans of the genre and critics alike. But when it came out in 1987, it had a rocky start both commercially and critically. It was mostly ignored by critics when it first hit the market, and even those who reviewed it that year dismissed it. One review by Dave Lang of Metal Hammer, for example, described the album as being a second-rate reheating of AC/DC, Aerosmith, and Hanoi Rocks' ideas. Meanwhile, getting it on the radio did not fare well for the band either. Apart from getting some radio play in their home state of California, they did not get any play anywhere else in the United States. In his book, Watch You Bleed, The Song of Guns N' Roses, music journalist Stephen Davis attributed this to multiple factors. By August, numerous rock albums by established acts were being released. Aerosmith's comeback album Permanent Vacation and Def Leppard's Hysteria would release singles that would take up the airwaves in their own right. Other albums that year took the interest of rock fans away from Guns N' Roses in '87. Hearts' Bad Animals, Anthrax's Among the Living, White Line's Pride, and another album we'll talk about in a bit. These albums flourished while Guns N' Roses' debut, for lack of better words, flopped. Now to be fair, Appetite did crack the top 200 on August 29th that year, but it debuted at 182. And after several months on shelves, the album only managed to sell 200,000 copies. By this time, their label Geffen Records was ready to quit on the album and just move on. But in spite of the initial bad sales and lack of radio play, a music video to Welcome to the Jungle was greenlit. Begrudgingly, of course. At Geffen, GNR had a champion that was campaigning for them.
The band's Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, and Tesla all have something in common. Tom Zutaut discovered them while working for Elektra Records in the 1980s.
Tom Zutaut, the A&R executive at Geffen Records, was the one who signed Guns N' Roses to the label, and he had absolute faith in the band's success. So with enough pestering, Zutaut prevailed in getting the band a music video with a budget of $75,000. In response to Zutaut's constant pestering, Geffen president Eddie Rosenblatt told GNR's manager Alan Nevin to call off his attack dog. With this budget, production for their first music video was a go. Shooting for Welcome to the Jungle began on August 1st, 1987. This was 2 weeks before the Appetite for Destruction tour began its first leg. For the video's director, they got Nigel Dick. At this point in Dick's career, he directed music videos for Tears for Fears and the Boomtown Rats. I believe his work for Bob Geldof's band got him the job directing Band Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas video. bit odd to have someone who directed a video to a charity song later on doing a video for such a hard-sounding number. Well, Alan Nevin said Dick didn't want to direct Welcome to the Jungle, but this was done to save on costs. The director was shooting a music video to Great White's Lady Red Light. You see, $75,000 is not actually a lot of money for a music video. Usually it's around $150,000. Because of the amount they were given, the original storyboard Nevin made couldn't be shot, and they had to come up with some cost-effective tactics, which included using the same director, equipment, and crew members from Lady Red Light. As described in the book Last of the Giants, The True Story of Guns N' Roses, Great White were on a roll. Their first single, Rock Me, had become a staple of rock radio in America that summer. It meant we got to a second Great White video fast. In the video and film world, you did 4-day rental deals. So you took it for even 1 day more, they would charge you for another 4. So Nevin booked a 4-day rental on Lady Red Light, then immediately went into Jungle, so I could offset my shortfall in Jungle and kind of sweeten it across the whole board. By running 4 days in a row, 2 with each band with the same production company, I was able to amortize costs. Without that, there would have been no Jungle video. And its form, with its socio-political content, was crucial to a perception of authenticity. Shooting locations include the historic Whiskey A Go-Go nightclub in West Hollywood, where a good chunk of the music video has GNR performing. Other shooting locations include a studio in La Brea and the Park Plaza Hotel in Los Angeles. So the music video opens up with Axl Rose playing a country boy who just stepped off the bus and made it to the big city, Los Angeles. You can tell he's country because he has a straw in his mouth. Izzy Stradlin, the band's rhythm guitarist, offers him a smoke that Axl refuses. Because as we all know,
winners don't do drugs!
As the band's manager Alvin Nevin said to Rolling Stone, the whole country boy shtick was stolen being his own words, from 1969's Midnight Cowboy. In fact, Nevin admitted to stealing ideas from 3 classic movies for this music video. Along with the Best Picture winner, they also took cues from A Clockwork Orange and David Bowie's The Man Who Fell to Earth. It's definitely apparent when you watch the music video, but I would say it's more of a tribute than stealing. During the Clockwork Orange moment, where Axl's tied to a chair in a straitjacket, he's shown watching various televisions. Some of these include scenes of police brutality. The footage was taken from police in not only California, but Israel, South Africa, and Belfast. As well, there are also clips from the infamous Faces of Death film, which Axl apparently was obsessed with the film series when he lived with former GNR manager Vicky Hamilton. When it came to adding hot girls into the music video, which was the style at the time, oddly enough, none of Guns N' Roses could think of a girl to be in it, especially one they could afford to pay. Nigel Dick, who wanted to add his own spice to the music video, suggested getting Julie Angel. Angel was drummer Steven Adler's landlord, who was sleeping in her apartment in her laundry room. In Dick's own words to the members, "Let's get Julie Angel, man. She's got a great ass."
She got a great ass!
So, Steven called Julie, she said okay, and 10 minutes later got her into the music video. Other things that happened during the production of the music video include wacky hijinks. Alan Nevin had a story about lead guitarist Slash in Classic Rock Presents Slash. At the video shoot for Welcome to the Jungle in 1987, a frazzled Grip came running to me. "Ah, Mr. Nevin, we got a bit of a problem." There, outside the empty store we were shooting in, where Axl was strapped into a chair with a metal restraint around his head, was Slash stumbling around in the middle of traffic on La Cienega Boulevard, brandishing a gallon of JD at the terrified rush hour motorist. I grabbed him and took him to the back of the Winnebago they were using as a dressing room. I explained, in short-syllable Anglo-Saxon, and with a few degrees of firmness, that this was behavior that was not suited to the circumstances. Slash looked me silently in the eye, then turned and walked home, some 6 or 7 miles away. Nigel Dick had his own anecdote about Slash, which I'm assuming this story happened after the one Nevin gave. Slash got completely out of it and tried stealing the motorhome they were shooting. Suddenly the motorhome took off and lurched across the street and made a U-turn and came scrunching to a halt. Slash sort of kidnapped the vehicle.
Son of a bitch!
The next day I said, "Alright, we'll have no drink on set. We've got to be together." The first person to come up to me is Slash, and he's apologizing. He says, "I'm sorry I took the motorhome up into the hills. I hope I didn't damage it too much." I remember thinking, he crashed the motorhome? This was part of his vision of the night before. He said to me, "So I understand we can't have drinks on set. Can I have a beer, man? Please?" I can't remember what my response was, but I'm sure he got his way. Dick also recalled a wardrobe incident with Axl Rose during his performance. Rose did this thing halfway through the song where he took his leather jacket off. He said, "Is this cool?" And I said, "Yeah, as long as you try and remember to do it the same way every time." Well, we never got beyond halfway through the song for the first 5-6 takes because he had so much metal work around his wrist that the jacket kept getting caught on the metal stuff. And I remember this one shot of him like a windmill, just flailing his arm, and I'm thinking, oh my god, he's going to get pissed off and he's going to leave the set. Which he didn't. Thank God. Dick also explained to Rolling Stone why working with Axl Rose was both a blessing and a curse. Your concern at the time is this going to stay? You're thinking I got to get some stuff of Axl on film. Slash and the other guys will hang around because there's some girls and some booze here, so they're fine. But with Axl, it's more complex than that. I became for a while the go-to guy for that kind of band, and I'd get all these awful band managers coming up to me. The job you did for that band was amazing, man, so you've got to do for my band what you did for Guns N' Roses. And you just go, oh my god. If the guy ain't Axl, he ain't Axl. You can be the best video director in the world, but if the lead singer doesn't have his oats together, you're The music video ends with Axl Rose's character being changed and appears to have been assimilated into the LA lifestyle, now one with the city. And I'd say that the video does a pretty good job in representing the rock band. A good chunk of it being the band performing at Whiskey A Go Go is a good decision, as you get to see the band perform and see how they look and figure out their personalities. Seeing the country boy transition from an out-of-towner to becoming an experienced resident kind of gives off the impression of this is what listening to Guns N' Roses does to you. Listening to them makes you cool. After the video was completed, the band's Appetite for Destruction tour began on August 14th, 1987. So, while they will be touring all over North America and Europe, the music video would be playing on MTV to help promote the band. That was probably the initial plan, but just like the album and song itself, the music video didn't take off. In fact, it didn't really play on the channel. Not because they banned it off of MTV though. This is where the history behind the music video gets a little complicated. In terms of being on primetime MTV, the channel was not playing it. So throughout the years, there have been some explanations why the music video didn't play on the channel initially. Stephen Davis, for example, cited the prominence of U2 taking over MTV's primetime slots at the time. That same year, the Joshua Tree was released, so songs like I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For and Where the Streets Have No Name would be playing on the channel during that time. Another claim as to why came from a 2017 LA Weekly interview with Tom Zutaut about the making of Appetite for Destruction. One of the questions was about the music video to Welcome to the Jungle. Question: why do you think MTV initially declined to play the video for Welcome to the Jungle? Answer: because half their cable outlets were run by a right-wing conservative, John Malone, who told MTV's founder, Bob Pittman, that if he played dangerous junkie bands, he'd knock MTV off his cable networks. Now, this is a strong claim to make from Zutaut, but if this claim is true, which does seem to be the case as John C. Malone was CEO of Telecommunications Inc. at the time, it would explain why an act like U2 would get more play than an act like Guns N' Roses. These two bands are just absolutely different from each other, with U2 definitely being the cleaner act to show during the day. So the lack of airplay on MTV combined with the lack of radio play would contribute to Welcome to the Jungle being an initial flop as well as the album. But obviously we know the song and album now, so what changed? Welcome to the Jungle wasn't being shown on primetime, it was still being played on MTV. In the middle of the night.
Again, it's Headbangers ball time.
The same year as GNR's debut album, MTV premiered their late night program Headbangers Ball on April 18th. This would be an influential program for heavy metal, showcasing a lot of music videos that wouldn't normally be played during the daytime.
Guns N' Roses right here on MTV. Gentlemen, together on the count of four, let's rock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's rock.
And through Headbangers Ball, Welcome to the Jungle would be playing on MTV. One of the earliest recordings I found this happening was on a September 12, 1987 episode. Another listener on Internet Archive says it was on September 9th's episode. But the problem is that Headbangers was only shown on Saturday nights starting at midnight and had an initial airtime of 90 minutes. So the video possibly only had one play a week in the middle of the night. There's no exposure for people outside of heavy metal to catch this program, let alone the music video. But to appear on Headbangers Ball was still a badge of honor, and on one particular episode, it helped the band gain some traction towards future success.
Yeah, buddy. Smash right here in the middle of the Headbanging Ball, And with us, one of the groups.
On the October 24th episode of Headbangers, GNR appeared on the show giving an interview to VJ Smash.
Smith in the 70s was the same thing they say in the late 80s going into the 90s. Oh, pardon me. It is these boys right here, Guns N' Roses, out of Los Angeles. These guys come from all over the place.
They played Welcome to the Jungle that night, and near the end of their time on the show, Smash suggested to the band to redecorate the set.
And I'm going to ask you guys now, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to redecorate this room. On your mark.
Which led to one of the most famous moments in the show's history.
Here's redecoration unlike any I've ever seen. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's starting to look a little more like home. These boys have such a touch. They have such a beautiful artistry about them. Oh, I have never in my life ever seen anything done like this. Is a wrecking crew. Unbelievable.
And this moment worked out well for the band's image.
Guns N' Roses, not only can they rock on stage, but they can do some interior decorating, buddy.
By November 1987, Appetite was at number 61 on the Billboard 200. And while 12 radio stations were playing the record in America, half of those stations had GNR as their most requested band. So there was buzz around the record industry that Appetite for Destruction was going to be a sleeper hit. But if only MTV could start playing their videos, it needed to happen. And it did. But depending on who you ask, you'll get a different reason as to how. So there are two stories as to how MTV finally relented and played the video on primetime. Possibly the most famous story about the two came from Tom Zutaut. As he told David Conell in his book Bang Your Head, The Rise and Fall of Heavy Metal, he spoke to David Geffen himself about getting the video to play on the channel. Geffen called in a personal favor to get on air, which they did. Once. On a Sunday. At 5 a.m. According to Zutaut, even in the wee hours of Sunday morning, MTV got so many requests, it blew their switchboard. This story is actually what got me to even do a music video time, as it sounds pretty amazing. One showing in the early mornings got Guns N' Roses to get played on the channel? Sounds mind-blowing. But in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't make sense to me. As well as there being a bit of a contradiction, as the LA Weekly interview has Zutaut say it aired at 4 a.m. in New York. Maybe the book got it wrong, or Zutaut misremembered in 2002, and considering the LA Weekly article is 15 years later, it's possible he just misremembered. But this little detail makes me second guess his story, especially since there's no exact day Zutaut said this happened. He said Sunday. Which Sunday? I just want to believe this, but there are some things that just seem dubious. Meanwhile, in Bang Your Head, there was another claim made by Al Corey, who did independent promotion for Geffen at the time. Corey told MTV to have Welcome to the Jungle play once a night for 5 days. In terms of how MTV reported on the rotations for a video on their channel, playing once for 5 days would constitute reporting that a video had light rotation on the channel. And MTV really did not want to play the video. So, after a few months of badgering from Corey, a compromise was made. The program director to MTV agreed to have the video be played 3 days a week. Once at 11:30 one day, once at 10 the next day, and on the third day at 3 a.m. According to Corey, this worked as the video would become the most requested video on the channel. Now, this story sounds more plausible to me. 3 days a week, and 2 of these days showed it before midnight. With this tactic, GNR would get better exposure to the masses, and MTV didn't have to report the video. Corey sent out promo singles of the song to radio stations around the US. On the sleeve said this: "Don't report this record. Even though the Guns N' Roses album Appetite for Destruction has already sold more than 1 million copies. Even though Welcome to the Jungle is the #1 most requested video on MTV, and MTV's top 5 for 2 months. Ask your listeners, hearing Guns N' Roses on the radio is better than hearing them on the charts. So play this record, and don't report it." More stations started playing their songs, and soon enough, on the week of January 13th, 1988, MTV officially added Welcome to the Jungle on their rotations list. And by March 23rd, 1988, 7 months after fighting tooth and nail to get them on the channel, they were playing the video on medium rotation. MTV had finally embraced the band.
Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle.
And that seemed very evident as GNR would win the MTV Video Music Award for Best New Artist that year.
I'm Tracy Lords.
And I'm Slash.
And Guns N' Roses is very happy to have this. Thank you.
By April 19th, 1988, Appetite for Destruction had reached platinum status by the RIAA. But that didn't mean that Welcome to the Jungle was a hit song. They would need to release the next single for that to happen.
It didn't get a massive response. It wasn't until later that Sweet Child of Mine came out that the other videos that we did previous all of a sudden became big.
When Sweet Child of Mine debuted June 21st, 1988, it cracked the Hot 100 at 76, and it took 12 weeks for it to peak at number 1 on the charts, staying at the top slot for 2 weeks.
Where do we go now?
Now, I bring this up as, by this time, Welcome to the Jungle still hadn't cracked the Hot 100. That didn't happen until the week of October 22nd, 1988, nearly 13 months since its single dropped. By the time it made it to the Hot 100, Appetite was 5 times platinum. So by the week of December 24th, Welcome to the Jungle reached its peak on the charts at number 7. 6-time platinum the album was at this moment. And during that time climbing the charts, Appetite reached number 1 on the album charts. This album absolutely was a sleeper hit. As of right now, the album is 18 times platinum by the RIAA and has reportedly sold 30 million copies worldwide. Sheer tenacity right there. And as for the music video, with over 500 million views on YouTube, its $75,000 budget was worth it. Getting Welcome to the Jungle onto MTV might be one of the most important moments in rock music. This refusal of getting any airplay for half a year would have definitely stifled any other band trying to make it big. But Guns N' Roses was not just another band. Executives stuck their necks out to get this band on the airwaves, and the long trek to success was rigorous but rewarding. GNR continued to make albums, more rocking hits, and even more music videos. One music video, I may add, will definitely get its own music video time in the future. But we'll get there when the time comes. So let's finish this episode before the jungle brings us down by simply saying, Welcome to the Jungle's music video will satisfy a rock band's appetite. Thanks for your time.